Everybody, welcome to the T.R.I.P Podcast, the Toledo Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is episode 7, and it's an in-person episode. And today I have the honor of speaking with Mr. Eric Puffenberger. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So this is actually our first episode with a real estate agent. So I wanted to. So I'm coming from the perspective of a lot of times as an investor, as a wholesaler, and speaking with a lot of investors. But with realtors, believe it or not, I actually wanted to be a realtor when I first got started into the business. That was my goal, was to be a real estate agent. I ended up, changing ways. But let me take it back to when you first got started. I mean, what got you into real estate? What made you decide that you wanted to become a real estate agent?
Okay, so I've always had an interest in properties. I like the tangible asset of a property, and my wife and I wanted to, do fix and flips 15 years ago. So I actually took my first set of real estate classes 12 years or about 13 years ago, and I never took the test because I had another career. I was a math teacher for 10 years, and then I was a counselor for 8. But so I was in the school system for 18 years, and just life got busy, and I just never pursued it. But I've always watched the market. I love markets, being a math person. I love analysis and, watching things come on a market, come off a market, whether it's stocks or houses, you know what I mean? Right. And just kind of seeing that ebb and flow is fun. So that's what interests me. I enjoy trying to help people find that big ticket item that they're looking for. Right. It's a big purchase. Right. So even on the residential side of things, people are can really build something for themselves through a home. Right. So that concept excites me as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I know that you were actually the math teacher at the high school that I actually used to go to.
Yes, Whitmer High School.
Whitmer High School.
Go Panthers.
Go Panthers. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't have him as a teacher, but that's interesting that we were kind of in the same place at the same time at that point in time. Yeah. So going into you became a real estate agent. What were some of the expectations you had as a realtor, and then how are they met once you first got started?
Okay. Getting into it, anything's new. You're not exactly sure even how to put contracts together. Right. And stuff like that. So I knew there was going to be a steep learning curve. And I knew it was going to be new. But I joined a team. So Jake Whitmer is our team leader, and he's been unbelievably helpful for learning just the ins and outs of everything, contractual wise, and just how a deal goes, like the whole escrow period and everything else. And then obviously there's the negotiations too, right? Yeah. All the things that can go wrong in a real estate deal. Yeah. I knew those things were out there, and I kind of knew about them. But until you're actually in those deals, the best way to learn is to get started, right?
Exactly.
And so I just got started, and in my first year, put in a lot of different offers for a lot of different buyers that were investors. So really I just got started, just got started with navigating transactions. And I think my expectation going in was also that people needed guidance, right? They needed a trusted advisor. Yeah. Right. And, being a teacher, kids would come to me as a trusted advisor, you know what I mean? And, or, being a counselor for 8 years, so sitting down with an adult that wants to buy an investment property or residential, or when they want to sell their home, it's a consultation. It's not that much different. So, a lot of the skills that I've built over my time as a teacher, educator, have translated, so it's been nice. There's been definitely a learning curve on the transactional side of things or whatever, but I've bought 3 homes myself, so I'm not completely, I understand how it all works. My brother's a real estate attorney as well. listened to him about his transactions for the last 18 years, and how they go right, how they go wrong, and stuff like that. So, anyways, so it's been a little bit of a lot of new stuff, but then a little comfort in knowing that really it comes down to relationships, just like education does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to your point in regards to negotiations, how I was always taught negotiations when I first got started was like this hardcore, like almost like Wolf of Wall Street, like type of negotiations where you're just pounding phones and it's like saying, hey, either you buy or you die type of mentality.
Yeah.
And as I got more experience, got more reps in, talked to more people, I understand that it's exactly as you said, it's a consultation. And the word sales, a lot of times, especially when you're selling to somebody, that person on the other side maybe has a bad expectation or a bad taste in their mouth when they say the word sales. How I've came to realize it was that, sales at the end of the day is just communication. It's a consultation. So you're just essentially just communicating, first off, understanding where they are, where they want to be, and then just communicating how they can get there. And through it, as a real estate agent, helping them list or buy a home.
Exactly. You said it very well there. It's I think we talked about this maybe a little bit, but before, but golden rule versus the platinum rule, right? So the golden rule, it's in every, major publication, the Bible, or whatever, about, treat others how you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. But the platinum rule says treat others how they want to be treated. You know what I mean? So it's starting to learn their language or their wants and their needs, mm-hmm. you know what I mean? And then helping them along the way. That's really the key to the whole thing is, what does the seller need? What does the buyer need? Let's create a win-win scenario here,
exactly.
That works for everyone. So like I probably can't disclose it because we're still in the middle of the deal, but like I have a deal going on right now that is the classic, like everybody's chipping in to make this thing work. You know what I mean? Like it's a win-win-win scenario, like across the board for both agents, both buyer and seller. You know what I mean? And it's not an easy situation. It's a first-time home buyer, that doesn't have a ton of capital, and it's a seller that doesn't have a whole lot of room to work. You know what I mean? So, the other agent and I are, it came down to, so that's another thing too, is like about giving, and just giving freely.
Yeah.
So there's a great book called The Go Giver.
Love that book.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it'll come back to you, right?
Yeah.
So, to keep this deal together, the one I'm mentioning, I was out there power washing, and painting, for 2 half days to get it done, So, I could have maybe thrown money at it or whatever, but I have the skill to do the other. And I was like, you know what? Like, I like doing that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I put some time and energy into it a little bit just to help my client out and, show some love, like let's use that word. It's just like, hey, I want to show him that I care. I want him to really get that house. It could be a great opportunity for him. And at the end of the day, all it did was take me a little bit of time. So and it's just when you have that giving heart. Another thing I just learned this a couple weeks ago. When you are giving, when you're putting out, when you're worried about another person, it's impossible to be worried about have fear for yourself. Because usually fear is a personal reason that you're fearful. You know what I mean? I've never really thought of fear like that. But, so, you get worried when you start worrying about yourself. You know what I mean? When you pour out into others, it's almost impossible to have that worry and that fear. So anyways, I don't know if I articulated it quite right, but
that was great.
It's just like if you just pour yourself into someone, other people, what you're doing, and the rest will kind of work out.
Right. And that's a similarity. I've at this point I've interviewed a lot of people that are successful here in our market and have private conversations with them, and they all kind of have that same mentality. Creating win-wins and giving before receiving. Right. A lot of people, that I've met, what I find to be the common denominator between all of them is that their relationship first. It's not about $1 first. And that's actually what I see the common denominator being between people that just burn out real easy, that are just fly-by-night, realtors, investors, wholesalers, whatever the case may be. They're all just worried about, getting the deal, which I mean the deal is important at the end of the day. That's important.
Right.
But having those quality conversations with people and really figuring out, okay, what's the problem here and what can I do to be a solution, the go-giver mentality. That's what I see the common denominator being between a lot of people that have success here and not just here but all across industry is the fact that they're willing to give before they receive. And now comparing your time in education versus your conversation you're having now with homeowners, what has been something that you've, I guess, learned, whether it be about human nature or communication in general, between having conversations in the education field or versus talking with homeowners about selling their home?
Right. They're looking for a trusted advisor, right?
Yeah.
And counseling kids, a lot of times I would be very slow to give advice. It would be more like help them figure it out on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And in real estate, obviously, it's better to narrow down some choices.
Right,
be
right.
more clear exactly of like, hey, here's 3 choices. And there might be 12 choices.
Right.
But you got to be clear. You got to place clarity.
A confused mind says no.
Yes. So you can't cause more confusion because there's already a lot going on.
Yeah.
So when to step up and be that trusted advisor, and and also similarities is, hey, know when to ask the right question. Ask the question. Who to ask the question to. Like it's okay to not have all the answers right away.
Right.
You say, hey, I'll look into that. I'll get you an answer.
Right.
I'll get back to you.
Right.
So, I learned that in other fields too. Is like don't be a know-it-all because that gets you in trouble too, right?
Right.
But yeah. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned is. Don't be wishy-washy. You gotta come across as confident, because if you don't have the confidence, then your clients aren't gonna have confidence.
Exactly.
And clients like to ask the question, well, what would you do? And so they really put you on the spot. I didn't get put on the spot that much in my last career or whatever. And navigating that question. Sometimes I'll give my opinion, but ultimately it's their decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to make a decision for one of my clients. So a lot of times I'll just rehash what the options are, the benefits and the downfalls of each scenario, and, kind of go from there. But, so you're kind of, you're still leading someone to their own answer. But the clarity piece is the biggest thing, is like, yes, there may be 12 options here, but, you don't need to, present the best 3, in your expert opinion, what might work,
Right.
And then also, if that there's more than 3, maybe ask them, hey, have you thought of a different scenario? And if, because you might present three kind of, hey, this is the 3 things we can do. But they might have some type of, in between option or whatever. So,
Right.
Clients are smart. They can figure it out when you give them, because that's what happens a lot of times is they will blend, 3 options together type of thing. Like, I really want this. But if you have a good finger on what your client wants, is it, let's say they're listing a property. Is it top dollar that they want? Or is it speed of sale?
Right.
Like, and that can change. That can change in the middle of a deal, right? Like, you might have a consultation with them a month before they list it. They get it listed, and then things are crazy. And it just has a different feel once it's on the market.
Right.
I've had some clients, really change that tune. So rechecking in at least once a week of what the temperature is of, how they're feeling and what they need and want. So just having a constant communication, so you have an idea of, what they're wanting out of the deal, basically.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Let me ask you. I'm sure you see realtors all the time and meet different types of realtors, the good, the bad, and the in between. I mean, what do you think has been the common denominator you've seen versus with the people that are successful as realtors here in the area?
This might sound interesting, but like, number one, show up. I mean, it's like you're in the market, you're in this field, be everywhere. And that's what you'll see. You'll see the common names popping up, and things like that. That they're if they don't have a listing, maybe they're calling you on your listing. Where they're looking for angles. Like where it's like, hey, I have this, investor that has six properties, it's kind of off market now. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have a lot going on there, right? So you could ask your client if they have that package of 6 properties, really lay it out, because they might only be thinking, oh, I want to sell it as a package.
All right.
Well, really lay it out. Hey, what happens if we do individual? Would we be able to get more? And really put that out there. Then you also have the other angle of, who do I know in the industry who might want these 6, right? So can this just be an off-market thing, type of thing? It's like, hey, I know these 5 guys. I'm going to call them. I'm going to have great conversations with them. I'm going to present this well, clear communication, have the stuff ready. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I know it's kind of long-winded, but like, look for the angles. Look for the angles to close deals, because a lot of times sellers don't know what they have, and then letting other people know what's out there, like, hey, I might have this property coming up, what I mean? Next thing you know, you have an excited buyer for your seller, and next thing you know, it happens.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And that's something that we've seen even in our investing business. We were usually just using just one type of buy strategy, one type of exit strategy, right? Which was just wholesale when I first got started, like my first 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? But as I grew, I started introducing, giving, say if the homeowner doesn't want a low ball cash offer, right? Giving it to a realtor may be their best fit.
Right.
So using that. And also ask them the questions like, hey, and we use this more of like a pre-qualifying type of question, but at the end of the day, it does serve true purposes of pre-qualifying, and also just seeing and giving them maybe some clarity on what their options are. Hey, have you thought about listing it? Have you thought about renting it out? Or putting some money into it and just maybe staying there, whatever the case may be. It's giving them their options and just being very honest with them. Like, hey, listen, I don't know if price is what you want, which is what really a lot of sellers want, is they want the highest price.
Right.
If you give them price, or if what they really want is price, then just being upfront with them in my field and just saying like, hey, I'm probably not going to be the best person for you if what you're looking for is just price. If that's what you're looking for, I can refer you to somebody that can help you get the highest price, and they can help you put it on the market. Right. And that's when you can give it over to a real estate agent, and they can be the one to actually service them, because that's what they're looking for.
Yep.
So to your point, just making sure that you have, able to pivot where you need to pivot in your offer presentation, and just making sure that you can maximize the value you give to these homeowners. And
yep.
so now let me ask you, how are you finding these opportunities as far as leads, as far as sellers or buyers leads? Do you lean towards being more of a buyer's agent or a listing agent?
I mean, I've had a lot more buyers than listings.
Okay.
It's starting to pick up on the listing side a bit. And one's even come full circle where one of my clients was more of a buyer, and he's pivoted to more of a seller now. So right. I think. So to answer your question about how I've serviced some leads, being active on biggerpockets.com has been a big one. I mean, I did do some, paid leads through Bigger Pockets, and
okay.
Some of those people have become really good clients, okay. And then now those clients are referring me to other networking groups and stuff like that. So I've had some pretty good organic leads from the people that I've already had experience with. So
yeah.
But yeah, and then I reach out individually to people on Bigger Pockets as well, so other active members of that platform. I really like the platform for the fact that it's all about education,
Yeah.
It's like you can know nothing about, investments at all. And, they'll take you from, it really is a learning community.
Yeah.
Which is pretty sweet. So yeah, and then I go to local investor meetups and things like that, and I've met a couple people through those, and it's just amazing. Or like I even got a couple leads from a contractor that I was working with. What I mean? Like really hit it off with this contractor, and built a solid relationship with him, and and he's constantly around homes, people that are buying and selling homes, so if I'm front of mind for him, maybe he'll refer me to the next person, and that's happened a couple times. So
awesome.
That's that whole back thing, the relationship. You never burn a bridge, period. It doesn't matter how wrong do you feel or whatever, but you never know when that relationship might come back full circle.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I've been some disappointed with some contractors, with doing some work here and there or whatever, but I'm never gonna burn that bridge. It's we maybe part ways or whatever, but you never know when that person's gonna need you. You might need them to come back around. So yeah, just doing it right day in, day out, I think comes back to you, and it's worked.
Yeah.
What
would you suggest somebody that's just getting started in real estate as an agent? How would you recommend that they go out there and source opportunities? Is it just doing what you're doing, like just getting out there, or would you recommend anything in addition to that?
Well, there's a million things that they'll sell you and try to do.
Right.
And really reconnecting with your sphere, letting them, the people that you already know. So people do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? So you already have a book of business right there. Mm-hmm. So start with the people that know, like, and trust you, and then tell them what you're doing. Because if you look at the sphere, maybe they're not buying or selling a home, in maybe not even the next 5, 6, 8 years or whatever, but I guarantee you they know someone who is. So, real estate transactions happen when there's change, so, maybe you connect with people. For example, we were talking about me reconnecting with guys your age, that were from Whitmer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of change when you're 25. People are getting married, having babies, and everything else. That first time home buyer space. Don't go after the first home buyer space. Just you could target that demographic of people that you don't know at all.
Right.
Right. But who are the first time home buyers that you know?
Right.
Start there.
Right.
So start people with those people, and then some people target people that are older. Like maybe they're retirement age and they don't need that big house anymore or whatever. Mm-hmm. That might be someone that was your mentor, or a teacher, like someone that you had a connection with a long time ago, but they're a lot older than you. Well, can you reach out to that person and genuinely be curious about what's going on in their life?
Yeah.
Make a connection, and then, see if you can help them.
Yeah.
And you might help them finding a garbage man or, a contractor. That's fine, and then next time they go for a real estate sale, maybe they'll think, oh, Eric's that advisor for this, and this. Maybe he can help me with my home.
All right.
So that's really the name of the game. So you got to be patient though, because it doesn't, a lot of those things, those reach outs, they might be 6 months away, they might be 6 years away.
Exactly.
But it's you got to have genuine conversations with people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So just a sphere of influence. So anybody that becomes a real estate agent, I take it that they have a sphere of influence. They have family members, friends, people that they know maybe in church or any club that they have.
And I think some people get in that they're like, oh, my sphere is so, I don't really know anybody. And that, you might have a very small family, network,
Yeah.
you didn't do okay, then get involved, somewhere, somehow. You mentioned church. Is there something that you're passionate about? Like you volunteer for church, there's 12 new people, whatever it is, like 12, 20 new people that, are now in your sphere and you have a chance to build a relationship with.
Yeah.
So, where there's a will, there's a way, and it's a contact sport. That's what, a lot of times Danberry will say, you can't just sit at your home and wait for somebody to call you. You have to get out, talk to people, and make connections.
And it's great that you're saying all this, because believe it or not, how I really got my first start in the business was, like I said, wanting to become a realtor. And so at the time, I thought, there is I was listening to Gary Vee at the time, talking about, hey, just go find somebody that's successful in what you want to be and just work for free. Just go and just give yourself for free and help them in any way they can.
Yeah.
And so I'm a Muslim. So we have the mosque that we go to. And at the time, it was during Ramadan, which is like our month of fasting.
Right.
And there was somebody there who I thought was a realtor. It turned out he was a mortgage broker. Somebody I still have a connection with.
But he's
today.
in the field.
He's in the field, and I just asked him, hey, is there anything that I could do for you just to work for free? I'm looking to get into real estate. I thought he was an agent, so I asked him, hey, is there any way I can help you as an agent? He told me no, but he introduced me to somebody that was actually one of the original owners of Serenity Realty.
Oh, wow.
And this was back in 2019. So
right.
This was like one of the original owners of Serenity, and he introduced me to him and worked with him for a couple months, and that was my first step into the business. And it's just like you said, it's a contact sport. If you put yourself if you put yourself in traffic, you're gonna get hit.
Yeah.
So the best way to get hit is to be somewhere where there's a lot of conversation happening and getting yourself into that conversation, and that can be about whatever, right. just being somebody that people know and that happens to sell houses, so right. So I know you lean more towards the investors and servicing investors. Let me ask, when you first have a first consultation with an investor that's looking to make their first purchase of an investment property, or even maybe they're beginners in general, maybe they have a couple of properties, they're looking to scale up their portfolio. What do you see that are common mistakes from these investors, or just things that maybe you notice as a realtor that maybe are, I should say, maybe mistakes or even pluses that they're doing?
Yeah. So common things that I see. Well, one, I mean, not having finances and like having a pre-approval, like as simple as that, like they're all gung ho, maybe they listen to a Bigger Pockets podcast or whatever,
yeah. But
they didn't do all their homework or with that, and that they want to start looking at homes before they have a pre-approval, something as simple as that. So that's fine. I'm going to help them, point them in the right direction, maybe give them some, lender choices and stuff like that. But mass majority kind of have that figured out, how they want to finance a deal. The other thing is just knowing what type of, what their main goal is. You know what I mean? So like, do you want single family? Some investors will say, hey, I'm interested in it all. And it's like, yeah, duplexes and single families aren't that much different, Sure. But, I'll hear guys are like, oh, even a 4-unit here and there, and then like, they won't quite understand the difference. Like, they want it all. They want the unicorn. Right. They want something that's going to appreciate, like crazy and cash flow like crazy. And that just like usually there's a trade-off there, yeah. Right? You're not going to get both of those things. So, what are your main goals? And then if you're going for a extremely, high cash flow, type of property, kind of know what that comes with, especially, and also knowing what, people get excited about Toledo because they'll see a house that, is $45,000 mm-hmm. or whatever. And, some assume that it might not be the best house in the world and maybe not in the best area or whatever, but yeah. Some kind of blindly come in and think it's going to be this amazing, amazing place. And it's probably going to need a lot of work. You know what I mean? Sure. And I love the guys that, buy the $30,000 homes and put $20,000 into them,
yeah.
Because it's helping the neighborhood. Right. Right. So, I mean, I have some clients that are doing that, and, there's not and because they're long-term buy and hold guys. You know what I mean? So that's another thing too, exit strategies, right? A lot of the newer investors will not have that. They just think buy and hold forever, but then it's like, okay, well, what happens in 3 years? Your life completely changes and you don't want these anymore. What does it look like then?
Right.
Type of thing. So, so coming in with a strategy, and also you got to have the willingness to just kind of get started too, because some will get into deals and it's analysis by, they'll all be gung-ho, they'll get under contract and then they'll get cold feet type of thing, being a newer investor. So not everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So getting one under your belt to see how it feels to be a landlord, you know what I mean? Like, because I've had people get cold feet over small things like that too. So anyways, I guess it's just looking at the whole process from start to finish, doing your homework with like property management, right? So some will get into it and they're like, they won't even know, what percent they usually charge, or, they won't put the time in to call 3 property management companies and do the interviews for the, you know what I mean? It's like, they can take my recommendation and everything, but they should still have a conversation with the people that they're going to give their money to, right?
Absolutely.
So I have strong, referrals, and I feel confident with people going with those people, but they still have to put the time and effort into it to do those steps. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So because I think they come in with passive on their mind.
Yeah.
And it's
oh my God, I can talk about this.
Yeah, it's not totally passive.
No, absolutely not. In fact, as somebody that's an investor that specializes in distressed homes, and this may hurt some people's feelings, but this is just the truth. My number one type of seller that sells us their home on a discount are tired landlords. People that get into the business. They think that this business is like, oh, it's just passive. Oh, buy a property, maybe put some money into it, put a tenant in there, and it's just, it's going to work by itself. It's not the case.
Right.
Rentals are amazing, by the way. I mean, I'm not going to take away the power of rental properties and owning real estate. It's an incredible vehicle for wealth.
Right.
But it's just not as passive as people may think it is.
Right.
Even with management.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you, I know you mentioned, some people may have cold feet when they're first getting started. How do you navigate, or how do you get them past having cold feet into actually, taking that step to take that first action step to getting into a home?
So like I've had some like first time home buyer seminars and stuff like that, and those people will show up and like just breaking down the barrier of like, hey, sit down with a lender, see what they say. What's the hurt in that? I feel like some people would rather go to the dentist than go talk to a lender. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just like, for whatever, even when I was a teacher, I would do math, section units of like financial math. And I love, like I would light up in the classroom, I would get super excited when I would teach that to the kids.
Yeah.
But most of those kids would crawl in a shell, when that came up, because money's a tough, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because our education, I could go on and on about this, about education, but like, we don't teach kids about money, you know what I mean? And it's almost like this, if you don't have that much of it, you're shameful, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And it's like, you're afraid what they're going to tell you. You might go into a lender and they'll be like, hey, it's going to take you 2 years to get there. Okay, great. Like, at least you're started. You know what I mean? Like, I have a first-time home buyer that, had that consultation with the lender, and now there's a path forward. You know what I mean? And, this guy's been stuck for almost 10 years, like, he's wanted to not rent for 10 years, but he's just never had that hard conversation to move forward,
Right.
So anyways, some of it's just getting more information, like talking to people. And like, if you go to one lender and you don't hear what's, like, okay, where there's a will, there's a way. Go to the next person. Like, because they don't all have the same answers. Not all lenders are created equal and everything else. So so just more information sometimes helps. Where it's like, you can do this. Like, I can't. And then they get when they're expecting a no, and then they get a yes. can't believe it. You know what I mean? They're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I got my first yes.
Yeah.
You know, and that gets you excited, right? And then, you know, you get under contract, or, you know, like you're like, oh, I never thought I was going to be able to, you know, purchase a home. Next thing you know, you're under contract, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, so like the yeses start building up. And, you know, that gives you some confidence, I guess. So,
Yeah.
Does that, I don't know if I answered your question, where
definitely.
it's like,
Yeah.
to help people
It's
through cold feet or whatever. It's like,
It's like what Bill Belichick says, you know, it's one play at a time.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and it's and just focus on the first thing first. Mm-hmm. Finish that. Don't worry about what the next step is. Especially when you have somebody on their side that's you know, guiding through the process. It's very easy for the client to just focus on what they got to do. You know, you're their coach, and they're the player.
right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just one play at a time. First thing first, just talk to the lender. Just see what they say. All right. And you may come off with a small win, and those small wins, you know, that pre-approval from the lender, wherever it may be, that's a win. That's a small win,
Yeah.
and progress towards where they want to go. And then stacking those just becomes the momentum that helps them get to where they want to be. Hopefully that's summarizing what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So let me ask you about today's market. Today's real estate market. What are you seeing in today's market? What are you seeing kind of going into 2024? And are you preparing for anything going into 2024, specifically in regards to the market?
So let me start with residential properties. Like right now, I mean, there's always a lull in, you know, sales. You know, it's December, Christmas is coming up. Most people don't want to, you know, move, especially like right in December.
Sure.
I have a feeling like even after the first of the year, things will pick back up, you know, a little bit. But like days on market for residential properties that are not pristine, you know, that need some work, they're sitting, you know, they're sitting more like 60, 70, 80 days, you know, like we haven't seen those days on market numbers in a while. So, and you're seeing a lot more price reductions. And so, you know, if you are willing to buy in the dead of winter, you can find a better deal. You know what I mean? It's going to be very interesting, you know, come spring. I think if these houses that are, you know, are 80 days on market right now, if they still happen to be there and they've been on the market for 140 days, and now we have a spring market, like, I think those are going to go fast at that point. But how long are those sellers willing to wait? You know what I mean? Like, are they going to, so I'm very curious to see if, those listings expire, you know, if they kind of give up on the sale, or whether they ride it out and, you know, wait for that offer come spring. Because I think if they wait long enough, they'll get it.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. You know, things could. They're saying that interest rates, you know, they're already 3 months ago. You know, we still had 8% interest rates. You know what I mean? Now they're 6.5%. And that's a whole 1.5 point, you know, different. You know, if they start sliding down closer to, so I'm sorry, that's FHA right now. Conventional is still in your 7.2 range or whatever. But, you know, if conventional starts slipping down into those sixes, you know, and stays there, you know, it could really fire. You know, there's a lot of pent up demand, you know, for people to make a move.
Yeah.
But people didn't like 7s and 8s, 8%. So interest rates have, and you know, to do with it as well. To go on the investor side of things, still extremely low inventory on both sides, residential and investment properties. The ones that are really nice go like fire, you know, multiple offer situation. And to be honest with you, I haven't really seen a huge slowdown in the prices of investment properties. You know, like ones that are nice are still going for prices that seem high to me. You know what I mean? So you can ask a premium on a duplex that's ready to go turnkey. You know what I mean? Those places are still going fast. So.
Gotcha.
You know, so like I usually look at supply, you know, days on market, you know, tells you how fast they're going. Those are two simple metrics to kind of look at or whatever. But yeah, so if you're a turnkey investor, you want something nice, you got to have all your ducks in a row, you know, and be ready to move fast. I mean, I try to get my clients to say, hey, there's going to be certain properties that we're just gonna have to move on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like we can't overanalyze this. It's a good one. Let's do it. You know.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's all kinds of opportunity in the houses that need work. You know, if you have that crew that can, you know, fix it up, and you know, you can put $8 to $10 into a house, and make it that turnkey deal, and navigate all that. You can find deals even on the market there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome.
So I think those opportunities will always be there. A lot of Toledo homes, you know, a lot of the stock is older, you know what I mean? So, you know, if you're good at taking a 1930s home and, you know, turning it into a decent rental for, you know, you can do well.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation. I think we've covered a lot of great ground. It's definitely given me some perspective on the realtor side, and just how the day-to-day is, and how people grow as realtors. So this has been great for me. I mean, any last words that you have to the audience?
Yeah, I guess I want to go back to my why too, because, you know, this business isn't always, listen to anything, you know, it's not easy all the time, right? Yeah. So, you know, I own, you know, an apartment complex myself, you know, and that gets tiresome at times, you know, but I go back to my why. So my why is to build assets to support my family, you know, for the long haul. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I want to build you know, it might be a stream now of capital, you know, coming my way, but I really want to build it into a river, you know, of capital coming my way. I've always thought about building a pile of cash, you know, but piles of cash go away, right? So I want something that's a constant stream of, you know, capital coming my way, so I can do things with it, you know, whether that's living with it, reinvest it, and things like that. So, you know, I'm slowly building that for ultimately my kids. You know, I want to leave behind, you know, those things. And then the other why, like with owning properties, is providing a home, you know, for someone. Mm-hmm. So I know landlord's the term or whatever, but like I like property provider or home provider. You know, like I'm talking with a guy that put in an application right now, that I'm really helping him out. I feel like I am, you know what I mean? And I feel like I'm giving him a space that I'm proud to hand him. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, you know, like I'm the, you know, I would want to live in the place that I own, type of thing. You know what I mean? So, you know, we pride ourselves on providing that for the people that you know live in our places. So, you know, there's a sense of dignity, you know, like purpose there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like providing safe, neat, clean, you know, spaces for people to live. Mm-hmm. So, awesome. So when things get rough, go back to your why. Absolutely. Eric, again, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast. Guys, this has been episode 7 of the T.R.I.P Podcast, and we will see you guys next week. Goodbye.